Please welcome Anna.
I move around a lot when I'm talking, so I'm so sorry to the camera person. But hello, everyone. My name's Anna Hollinrake, and this is my talk on creativity and recovery in 3 acts, because I'm a sucker for drama. That's me. I'm a senior artist at Climax Studios down in Portsmouth. I do a lot of concept art and illustration in 3D, but I also have absolutely no filter, so I am using that power to overshare to you all today. Act 1, straight into it, is the creative relationship. And when I'm talking about the creative relationship, I'm talking about the kind of things that you tell yourself when you're making things. Because as game devs, we're all creative people. We all have a really strong link to our creativity. And the creative relationship is fundamental. We can be really mean to ourselves sometimes. And when I'm talking about this, do you say positive things to yourself when maybe things aren't going quite as well? Or do you kind of be quite harsh? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So I wanted to use an example of a good creative relationship, which is me circa 2008, maybe. I was 16. I loved rainbow eyeshadow, and I also loved 3 things, which were DeviantArt, MSN, and Photoshop CS3. Now, I had a wonderful relationship with my creativity at this point. I would create, I would paint, I would do anything that kind of took my fancy. It was just exciting. It was a wonderful time to be making things. I had people around me who were very positive, and I would just, if it failed, that was fine. It was okay. I would make comics and draw really bad manga, like the worst. It was fine. I was having so much fun. But then 5 years later, I'm in my 2nd year of university, and it's all got a bit intense. And I've got a really bad relationship with my creativity now. I'm in a really bad place. Just wondering, how many people here are students? So quite a few people. And I thought a really good example of this internalized negativity that I got can be described by this photo that I posted on Facebook the night before a all-nighter deadline. And it was me basically saying, I've got an all-nighter, God, wish me luck, oh dear. And I bet some of you have had these moments, these kind of humble brags of, oh God, I'm really putting myself, really burning the candle at both ends for my art and for my creativity. But the thing is, a lot more is going on in this photo than I think is on the surface. I don't know how many of you have experiences of this, but when I was at university, we'd all stand around and brag and just share war stories about how little sleep we got that night, how much we were suffering for our craft. People on social media would post paint through the pain and get good, and everyone was just like, oh, sleep is for the weak. And it was like kind of self-aware jokes, but also they were sinking in. When you feed those messages to yourself that often, it sinks in. And you can see this in where I was studying, because I was studying for concept art and that kind of thing. So you had these forums where people would go on and create threads of their artwork, where they would, some people would put out so much work, and you'd be like, how are you sleeping? How are you functioning? People would share their schedules, and this is the kind of schedule that I made for myself. I never stuck to it, ever. But you'll see there are no days off. It was intense all the time. And there was this constant mindset of, if I don't work for 14 hours a day, I'm a failure. And everyone was internalizing this. And the people that were on these forums, the majority of them have had depression, they've had RSI, and that's what ended up happening. That night, I stayed up till, I think, 6 a.m. for a deadline that didn't even affect my grade. And I strained my hand so badly, I couldn't draw for 4 months. And I've been in physiotherapy as a result for it. It was a really awful time. And I wish I could say that was the worst of it, but that takes me on to Act 2, which is depression, anxiety, and a smorgasbord of bad things. And the thing is, all of these things, these messages, are like advertising. You think you can see them, but they are sinking in, and they are affecting you. And I think a great/terrible example of this is this garbage advert for Fiverr. You eat a coffee for lunch, you follow through on your follow-through. Sleep deprivation is your drug of choice. You might be a doer. If you do all of those things, you too can be this slightly glamorous, hollow-cheeked woman. And I think the fundamental part to analyze in this is you might be a doer, because if you aren't there eating a coffee for lunch, if you are getting enough sleep, if you are taking care of yourself, are you not a doer? Are you not doing enough? Are you not creative enough? And the overwork and the injury and the burnout is, in the grand scheme of things, surface level when it comes to what it can do to your relationship with your creativity, which is fundamentally tied a lot of the time to your self-esteem. It's a huge part of who you are. And so it goes from, you might not be a doer, maybe my art is not good enough. And that can keep on internalizing to, I'm not good enough, to, I'm not enough. And that's when depression and anxiety and a lack of self-esteem can really hit you. And it's an awful place to be in. And I love this. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's pretty straightforward. At the bottom, you've got your basic needs for survival. And as you work up, you get to belonging and love, esteem. And at the top is the kind of work that we do, which is creativity, problem solving. And when you're burnt out, that takes out the top of our pyramid. But the theory is that as long as you've got the basis of it, you can generally deal with that kind of stuff. You can deal with not being super into work at the moment. You can accept that it's maybe not going super well for you, but that's okay because you've got everything else. But these messages of don't look after yourself because we're glamorizing suffering is very insidious because they take out the top and then they take out the bottom. So there we go. That's highly nutritious. So I've knocked food off one of my base needs. Then I'm not sleeping properly. Rest is gone. I can't stay awake, so I drink loads of coffee. Water's gone as well. And suddenly, I've completely destroyed my foundations. What am I going to... I can't understand things as well when we're exhausted. We can't process things nearly as well. And then maybe I isolate myself. I don't feel as secure. My confidence goes. My self-esteem goes. And oh God, what have I got into at this point? It's an awful place to be in. So, recovering and rebuilding. And this is a really, really important thing to do. I'm essentially just going to be talking about lots and lots of self-care stuff. So we can use this tool, we can use Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a way to diagnose what's going wrong with us at the moment. We can work from the bottom up and move upward until we can get back to the nice, creative, fun stuff again. So food and water are pretty straightforward. We know what's good for us. It's just paying attention to that and being like, oh, maybe I've only had Diet Coke today. I've only had energy drinks today. I've only had coffee. Maybe that's not great. But I want to talk about rest, because rest is something that I think as an industry we really struggle with. A lot of us, I imagine, are night people, myself included. And I am terrible at giving myself time off. I have to, and I encourage you all to do this yourselves, because if you're like me and you see all of these people who just burn themselves out and you feel like you have to do that, I would encourage you to stand in front of a mirror and say to yourself, because this is what I do, I expect nothing from this day. I expect nothing from this hour. I am resting. I can do what I want, and that's okay. It's absolutely fine. And I think that taking those dedicated periods of time to rest and creatively inhale, take in more things and more information that is just fun, can do so much for us. I will also point out a day of procrastination is infinitely more tiring than a day of actually doing what you want to do. Maybe just take some time out and then just try and tackle it later. We've got a long time to achieve stuff. We'll get there. And then you can build yourself back up. So connection with others is a huge one. Ask for help. We aren't alone in creating things. I've done, I apologize if you're at Feral Vector. This is like my third iteration of this talk. I've been like adding wisdom as I go. But I have had so many people like message me or come up to me and be like, oh God, I just thought it was me. Like, I thought that it was just me having like a breakdown. Nope, everyone suffers with this. And then self-esteem. And this is the bit that's a bit difficult because our brains are like cornfields. We walk the paths most trodden. And we have to get back to having those healthy mental patterns and links. So I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is going to professionals. And this is where my chronic oversharing comes in. So I am a personal believer that everyone should be in therapy. It is so powerful. Talking to people to help rewire the connections that you've made is an incredible thing. And I've had so much from that. And also, I'm sure that if I tell you all that I take Ventolin for my asthma, that's fine, it's fine. But when I tell you I'm on antidepressants, some of you might be a little bit uncomfortable about that. And I'd like you to analyze and think about why that is, because I can bet you that's going to come back up again if you go through your own struggles. And there's nothing embarrassing or shameful about the fact that my brain doesn't produce as many of the right chemicals. The thing that is embarrassing is the fact that when I laugh too hard, I have to take my asthma pump. That's legitimately embarrassing. So I'm going to do something which is way too fun. I love affirmations, and you feel real silly when you do them, and then they start to work. So I'm going to ask you all to turn to the person next to you and look caringly into their eyes. I did this at my last one, and I can see someone just be like, oh God, she's doing it again. Turn to the person next to you, look caringly into their eyes, and say with meaning, I have lots of time to achieve my goals. You're all looking uncomfortable. Do it. I'm telling you, do it. Good, good. With feeling and self-belief. Okay, next one. I am willing to ask for help. It does not make me weak. Next one, come on. I am willing to ask for help. It does not make me weak. And the last one. I am enough. For my craft, for my friends, for myself. Really feel it. I am enough. Good, good. And the thing is, we can come back to creativity now. We can come back and we can find ourselves again. Because it can go from I am enough to I am good enough. And then to my art is good enough. And hell yeah, let's make some art or take a nap. It doesn't matter. Listen to what is important to you. And that's how we make good art with longevity over a grand scheme of time. And that's only positive, that's only wonderful. And I would really encourage you all to cherish yourselves and your relationships with your creativity and be kind to yourselves, because that's how we all do better in the long run. Thank you very much for listening.